Hi folks, I'm Douglas Rintoul, and it brings me great pleasure to bring you this co-review with my friend Jay Shah.
Hi everybody, I'm Jay Shah, longtime Star Wars fan since the childhood.
Yeah, my friend is also a fellow YouTuber. Unlike me, he mostly does videos in which someone else is on the frame, whereas I mostly go solo.
Well, I'm working on both things. Maybe I'll do movie reviews. This is my first one.
And since we both saw Star Wars The Last Jedi, we thought we would do a review together, especially given our long history of discussing Star Wars together. In this first one, we'll just do a spoiler-free review, and then we will have a longer chat about our more in-depth opinions on the movie.
So, do we want to give the rating at the beginning or at the end of the review?
I usually wait to the end to keep them in suspense.
Okay.
All right. So, Star Wars The Last Jedi. It's sort of an attempt at remixing, I guess, The Empire Strikes Back with Return of the Jedi for this incarnation of Star Wars. We're getting the rebels in a desperate situation at the beginning, and then the stuff with learning from Jedi Master Luke Skywalker is happening, and then there's lots of cool fighting, and then it ends in a pretty exciting moment. It's really different. It's a really different movie. It's hard to describe the plot.
In a spoiler-free review, what are we not allowed to give away?
Like the twists, I would say.
Okay.
Like you can say character traits about Luke and Rey and Kylo, to whatever degree wouldn't spoil it, I would say.
Well, I will say Kylo Ren has a lot of more depth in this film, and while he was not that respectable in the last film, he is, I'd say, pretty respectable in this one.
Kylo Ren has become a serious threat. That is not a transition I thought they would manage so easily, and they did. They did a good job with that. Kylo Ren is combat ready, and I liked that. Although all of his bumbling that he did in the last movie is now on General Hux. Now General Hux is a comic relief character.
Yeah, it takes away some of the respectability of Hux, though. He was never that respectable to me to begin with. But he plays the I'm angry all the time and super intense guy.
Yeah, I told Jay this earlier when we were talking about it, but I heard in an interview with the actor, he basically said, I play General Hux. He's evil. Like, that's the character he's going for. Domhnall Gleeson's a good actor, don't get me wrong. I just think, the fact that he could sum the character up that way is a bad thing.
Agreed. I was not a fan of Hux in this one.
And
he's definitely worse than he was in the last one.
Here's something I wanted to ask you, because I have a pretty strong opinion about it. How did you feel about Snoke?
Hated him. Emperor wannabe.
And I want to be the first to say this, in a golden bathrobe. Snoke is dressed like a pimp on his day off or something. I don't know what's going on there. It was kind of like, I actually enjoyed watching him for a bit, and then I thought, well, this is too much. This is too funny. This shouldn't be. He should be menacing.
Well, he's the emperor, but not the not serious emperor. The emperor is really serious. Young fool. Only now, at the end, do you understand? And he plays it great.
Yeah, I was.
Whereas Snoke would be like, young fool.
And then he'd make your lightsaber hit you in the back.
Yeah.
Then he would make your lightsaber hit you in the back of the head, because that's something he actually does to someone in the movie.
He also, I think when he moves somebody out of the way, I think there's a bit of electricity on that, when he hits them at their feet or something. which is another Emperor trait, of course.
I mean, like, yeah, he used electricity to shock someone, like almost as though the entire purpose of him having his time in the movie, which isn't that much, was just to show that he has the same powers as the Emperor, and therefore he must be an equally good villain.
That's the natural assumption, Douglas. That's yeah. That's definitely what they were going for.
And I was just, at first, in the last movie, I kind of liked Snoke. I thought, well, this could be fine. I mean, he's kind of like CGI, and I'm not sure whether he's a regular-sized person or a giant. But the little bit of screen time he had, built him up kind of nicely. There was a mystique there. I wanted to learn more about his backstory. And this movie takes away all of that. Well, not all. It takes away a lot of that mystique. Like, some of the mystery will remain, I think. But, we'll talk more about the treatment of Snoke, I think, in our spoiler review. How did you feel about Luke?
Interesting character choice. He was rather upset and angry the whole movie, which seems uncharacteristic of a Jedi Master to me. But given that was the character choice, I think that it was done really, really, really well. Yeah,
Mark Hamill, I must say, turns in a really phenomenal performance. Like, I've never seen him be bad in anything. He doesn't have a huge number of movie roles that I've seen, but he was in the original trilogy. He's in this movie. He's done a lot of voice acting that I know about, playing like the Joker in all of the Batman animated stuff. And he never half does things, as far as I've seen. But have you heard what he thought about the direction they decided to take his character?
I did hear about that. He disagreed with it, but he said it's my job to do it.
I kind of disagree with it too, but I also think it was well executed.
What would you have changed?
Well, I mean, it's hard to justify him having been away from the fight for so long in the first place, honestly. It's tough. I'd have to think about that a lot, but I guess the main thing is I would have given him a more legitimate reason for wanting the Jedi to end. And as soon as I saw it in the commercial, my thought on why the Jedi must end, if Luke has to give a reason, is to bring balance to the Force. Because then, if there are no Jedi, there can be no Sith. If there's no light, there can be no darkness. There will just be regular people, and the Force will just move the universe on its own or something. And maybe the universe would be a less violent place if there were no Jedi and no Sith. So maybe that's a legitimate discussion for him to have with Rey, if it had been in the movie, instead of him just thinking that the Jedi are bad now because they're arrogant or something.
Right, yeah, so some of the writing of Luke's lines was not too good.
I mean, I do think there's a better direction somewhere in there that they could have taken it, but it's hard, I have to admit. Because
they needed him to be that way, given the way they wanted to treat the plot. So I don't have a good alternative. I'm just disappointed that at the end of Return of the Jedi, he was a supposed Jedi Master and did this awesome reversal of evil, and now he's this angry guy like 30 years later.
He's a magical hero who has done almost literally nothing for what seems like it must be going on 15 or 20 years, whenever it was that his plans to create a Jedi temple failed. So that's disheartening, especially when friends of his are dying, or just being put in harm's way. I mean, his sister's been leading the fight, so he really, I don't know, he kind of abandoned her. She had no idea where he was.
Right.
I don't know. It's obviously going to be an underlying issue. It was an underlying issue in the last movie, but they had the benefit of not having him on screen. I admire the fact that this movie found a way to kind of courageously, I think, address that, even if I didn't exactly agree with the choice.
Yeah, and I think given the choice, they handled it really well. And I'll say, speaking of his sister, Princess Leia, she had a very good role in this film.
Oh yeah, Princess Leia.
By contrast to the last movie.
Yeah, they made her pretty central, actually. A very important character.
She's one of the most important characters. On a level not seen since,
it was like Han in the last movie, basically.
More.
Yeah, maybe more.
Yeah, definitely more.
Good point. Han was not as important in the last movie as Leia was in this one.
Yeah.
And that was good because Carrie Fisher showed that she was, with this last role, she was a really great actress, able to carry a lot of weight and show a lot of gravitas.
Yeah. So I will say, as far as positives of the film go, the visuals are stunning. I remember seeing episode 7 and being shocked at how good the visuals were.
Beautiful.
And it could be that it's been 2 years and I haven't seen it in the theater since, but I think that this one looked even better.
I think it did. It's the best looking Star Wars movie by far.
Yeah, and the visuals were great. A lot of the dialogue worked. They had a lot of jokes in episode 7, which I didn't like. They had jokes in this one, which I don't like. I don't like jokes in Star Wars movies in general because the originals, they're classic, elegant films. The jokes are woven in, but not because people are trying to make jokes, but because something ironic happens and someone comments on it. It's not like they're insulting each other or whatever, which is what I'm finding in these new movies, which I don't like. That being said, those sorts of jokes are there and done much better than they were in episode 7.
I disagree slightly in that I actually did enjoy a lot of the humor, but it did get to be a little bit too much. Especially when when the movie's making so light of the villains. It just feels like the villains are so unimpressive when the movie itself is making fun of them, rather than just, characters cursing them angrily and saying how horrible they are.
So, let's finish off on positives. So we have...
Oh, it's really exciting.
So it's exciting. The humor was done better.
There are great
visuals
action
are great.
scenes.
Great action scenes for sure.
Yeah, I mean, especially there's a scene that it's this really cool lightsaber fight. It's involving lightsaber wielding people fighting people who don't have lightsabers but are really good fighters, and that's probably the highlight of the movie. If that had been the end of the movie somehow, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. The movie has a pretty cool ending too, actually.
Yeah, it has a great ending. Yeah, I disagree that was one of the great highlights of the film, but it was certainly a really nice scene.
What's your favorite thing in the movie?
This is the non-spoiler review.
Yeah, but you can say something general.
Come back to me.
All right.
Yeah.
My favorite thing in the movie, and we kind of talked about this earlier, was watching the development of the interactions between Kylo Ren and Rey.
Mm-hmm.
That was the best thing in the movie, and I won't go into any more detail than that, because that probably would constitute spoiling a little bit. And if nothing else, I think you should go into this movie unspoiled. It's really divided audiences and critics, and a lot of people are convinced it's the best thing or the worst thing ever. What I will say is that relationship is interesting to watch, and I don't want to spoil a minute of it.
Well, the film also has some cheap tricks, like some just patently bad dialogue, which I was not. I saw a movie twice, and the second time I noticed it more. Although I noticed it the first time, some bad dialogue, some cheap tricks. Wasn't happy about that. The plot was too complicated. They're about
way too complicated.
They're about 17 plots going on at once, and by 17 I mean like 3 or 4, and it gets complicated, and it's not easy to follow. And as a result of that, they start adding all this stuff, this extraneous action, which is uninteresting to me.
I mean, you might even be charitable saying that. How many plots did you say was going on?
3 or 4.
Yeah, you might even be charitable saying it was only 3 or 4. I'm thinking about it. At certain points, there might have been 5.
Yeah.
or 6. I don't know, but probably not more than that. Still, it's too much for one movie to juggle, and it feels like this movie was trying to be a lot of different things, and it was just trying to flip the Star Wars script. Star Wars isn't necessarily innovative storytelling, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. The structure of the first movie, A New Hope, is based on the concept of the hero's journey, and the other movies are kind of modeled off of elongating and further exploring that structure too, I would say. So I feel like this movie has jumped into something completely different. And
it's definitely different than other films. Definitely different.
Probably,
I'd say in a good way, to be honest. Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, and I'm gonna be honest. I think I'd have a better opinion of it maybe if it weren't a Star Wars movie.
Why?
Because, and this sounds like a terrible, stupid geek thing to say, I guess, but I don't like them treating my Star Wars this way. And that's kind of a lame thing to say. I didn't have that reaction to The Force Awakens because it didn't do anything to rock the boat. And I didn't even have that, well, I did kind of have that reaction to the prequels, and they did rock the boat, although this movie is definitely better than those in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say it was a bad story. I can say it feels like it was compressed and then shaken, like a bottle of soda or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just sort of splattered all over the screen.
Yeah, complicated plot, for sure. Complicated plot. Made up for, though, but with a lot, I mean, there's some good acting. Some good acting by Rey, good acting by Kylo Ren.
There's a lot of heart in this
Daisy
movie.
Ridley and Adam Driver, because characters don't act, right?
That is true. The characters just are.
Right. They are the acting.
Yes.
And
yes, they are. This movie has all the same faults as the previous movie in the sense of the characters.
It's better.
Yeah, it's better, I would say.
I'd
some
say it's
ways.
a lot better.
I mean, I'm not sure we are going to completely agree on this, but I don't know. I think it's a little better than the last movie. It's hard for me.
Well, I left this movie feeling amazed.
I did too.
I did not leave the last movie feeling amazed. I'm like, wow, that's a really good episode 4 you got there.
Well, my feeling after watching the episode 4 remake was that it actually got better on a second watch, and this movie maybe didn't and won't for me probably as well, because the problems are more fundamental and they're more baked into the bones of the movie. And in The Force Awakens, the main problems I had, if I recall correctly, were related to the fact that it was a ripoff of the fourth movie, A New Hope. And that's not a quality of the movie. That's a quality of me. That's something I am bringing to it. That's a problem with it being part of Star Wars, not a problem with it as a movie. Just like my main problem with this one is that it's part of Star Wars.
Well, 7 did have the problem that it took what 4 did and made it bigger and better, which is to say worse. Like, for example, you have the Death Star in the original. Awesome thing. Here you have Star Killer Base, which is 10 times bigger. And somehow is it scarier? No, is it... Right?
I mean, it turned out to be deadlier for sure.
Right? So on that note, right, you have this suspense built up around destroying Alderaan, right? And then in 7, you just have them Hux, our favorite, randomly just destroying 5 planets. And the thing is, it's bigger, it destroys more planets. It's not scarier, it's not more imposing. It has less relevance because what it is in context of everything is just less important. I feel like they just tried to go big.
Well, you know what I think they should have done to improve that? Not let the rebels blow it up. That would have made it more imposing to me. Just already it would be better than the Death Star. It survived a whole movie. I mean, that's my view.
Yeah.
I think we're getting a little off track now.
Yes,
so
yes. Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
We'll say more in our spoiler review, which I hope you'll check out soon. But for now...
The spoiler review is going to be way more fleshed out.
Yes.
Yeah, we're dancing around topics right here.
Yeah, we are.
Which is no fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's more fun to just spoil everything. Because this movie has a lot to spoil. Let's give our ratings. I personally, on my scale that goes from A to F, I give Star Wars The Last Jedi a B+.
I don't do letter systems. I do numbers. I give this one an 8 out of 10.
Well, I did steal my way of doing it from a YouTuber called Chris Stuckman, so that's how I ended up with that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for watching. Please check out both of our channels.
I've got a good channel. We talk about motivation and what I talk about.
Jay's going to improve your life.
Entrepreneurship, motivation, good habits, things like that. I interview guests and pick their brains on topics like that.
And I will help keep you entertained while he is improving your life. So we'll both link to each other's channels. We're both going to post this review on each other's channels, on our own channels, and link to each other's channels in the area below. There's just going to be a lot of intertwining and like links all over the place. You'll be able to follow them. It'll be fine.
If you feel it was valuable enough, feel free to like, share, or subscribe.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Thanks, and till next time.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. Always.